Here we go. So this is going to be a throwback to my old clergy days, the theme anyways, because the title for this popped into my mind it was the sin of self-omission. And I need to just clarify what I mean by sin. The larger theme of what we're doing here is like, it's like our deep vocation, our purpose, if you like, is to express ourselves through a lifetime. And anything that gets in the way of that self-expression, we want to be able to come into a compassionate relationship with it so it doesn't exert the power to be somebody other than ourselves. And so people pleasing is one of those adaptations, early psychological and emotional adaptations, which has become an identity. And so we're all about sort of undoing the identity that is the curated ego that we formed in response to unfavorable conditions, whether it's, some kind of shame, some kind of punishment every time we try to be who we are. So when I talked this morning about the sin of self-omission, I'm not talking about that sort of traditional Christian notion that associates sin with moral failure. So that, and then there's original sin, whereby the claim is that babies are born sinful, which has been itself the source of untold suffering for generations of children, at least in the Christian world, because it was a real thing, and it still is a real thing in some conservative circles, where they beat the child for their own good because they're beating the original sin, they're beating Satan out of them. So it's horrible to think of, but sadly it's still happening, and it generated generations and generations of suffering. So I'm not talking about sin as moral failure that we're born, that we carry with us into our life, and needs to be expunged. I'm talking about sin as the state of alienation, the experience of feeling separate from God or source, from earth itself, from relationships, from our own life. And there's a sense in which we're born into that, but we're born into the culture of alienation, or the cultures of alienation, and one of which is the psychological culture of alienation that is transmitted through our families. And this is where we learn that we need to adapt in order to belong, in order to be loved, in order to be legitimate, to be worthy to feel like we matter. So when I talk about the sin in the sin of self-omission, is how we're rendered from a very early age in a state of alienation where it's not safe or productive just to be ourselves. And this is against what I regard to be a truth, that having been made in the image of God, the great mystery source, the great mother, whatever, that our vocation, therefore, is to reflect that image as fully as we can, moment by moment by moment. And this involves the dissolution of ego, if you like, that curated self that we identified with, in order that we can be born again into sort of our true nature. And our true nature is not here to please anybody else. Our true nature is here just to radiate and to shine and to be an alluring presence, because we are, each one of us, so unique and so unrepeatable. And that's what we want to be unapologetically expressing. So not yesterday, a little while ago, I was with a client who gave me permission to share this experience. And the experience was, he was telling me about doing his morning yoga. And he was thinking about a relatively recent breakup from a woman he loved deeply. And he was in the middle of a yoga pose, and his body collapsed with the realization that this happened to him. Like he felt it as a personal experience, which is an important developmental stage, because when we're wounded too early, there is no I to experience feelings. We are the feelings. So babies don't have feelings. They are those feelings. And he was experiencing that, oh, there's a me that underwent this. And when he experienced the me that underwent this, he actually could no longer hold the pose. He could no longer perform the pose. Prior to this, whenever he thought about what happened, his mind was filled with how it was for her and what she was doing, et cetera, et cetera. And now he was feeling it. And so then this set up a sort of a domino effect in him, where he realized all the ways in his life that he omitted himself from the experience of his life. In other words, he didn't count himself as part of the equation of life. And so there was something missing. He realized there was something missing in his life, and the something that was missing was himself, his true nature, and he was feeling it wasn't self-pity, it wasn't blame, it wasn't guilt. It was just like, oh my God, this happened to me. And I love the metaphor of him no longer being able to hold the pose. And so I listened to him, and I wondered to myself, how many of us have learned to leave ourselves out of the equation of our very own lives? We've become experts at including everybody else, but disappearing from life ourselves. We notice everybody else's needs, everybody else's disappointment, their expectations, their need for comfort. But somehow, if we're deep into this identity of people pleaser, for example, we're not in the room. We're actually not there. We're in a performance. We're in a pose. We're in a posture. And so when, a teacher like Jesus, talks about the most important commandment is to love God as you love yourself, I think we've spent more time on what it meant to love God than we have on what it means to actually love ourselves, which begins by including ourselves in life. Because when we do, we've been taught, especially through religious cultures, that when we do that, we're selfish, self-centered, we're narcissistic. You're a selfish little boy, you're a selfish little girl. And so we extract ourselves. We disappear, quietly, politely. We disappear spiritually, hiding behind the virtue of service to others. But when we're doing that, it's actually bolstering the ego that we curated so that we can feel like we're of substance, when our early experience is that we're insubstantial. We don't matter. We haven't materialized. We haven't incarnated, because the only way to do that is to see ourselves through the eyes of the other, through a mirror of somebody who says, you matter, I delight in you, I'm interested in you, tell me more about how you're experiencing the world. What do you want? It's a pleasure to give you what you desire. And if we're not getting that, we just learn to disappear ourselves, to omit our true selves, because now we're living from this false identity. So, it's interesting to think about people pleasing, not being so much about pleasing others, although we're doing that. It's about omitting oneself, taking ourselves out of the equation. Because if we learned, usually as children, that it feels safer if one's own experience doesn't matter quite as much. It's safer because when I reveal myself, I subject myself, I take the risk of being humiliated, either by not being heard, not being seen, or directly through some kind of feedback that I'm an embarrassment. So, it's intelligent to stay quiet, to hide, to adapt, to become what other people need. And then after years, you form this identity, and you exist somewhere behind that identity. But the thing that's gone missing in your life, people call it meaning, people call it purpose. I'm searching for purpose, I'm searching for meaning. But really, what we're experiencing, what we're missing is ourselves. An experience of being alive and involved and in the flow of life. That's what we're missing. Because when we're doing that, the question of meaning and purpose doesn't really come online, because we're just in it. We're just doing it. We're just flowing with it, So this image of God, the divine image within us, is not something just that we're supposed to possess. We're supposed to make it visible. We're supposed to reveal ourselves to the world, to speak up, give our particular perspective on something, show up, be crazy when we feel like being crazy, be our wild self, be our non-alienated self. Because at some point, I'm not talking here, as I explained, about sin as a moral failure. At some time in our life as adults, we are responsible then, despite all the conditions of alienation, to reintegrate ourselves, to overcome the state of alienation. And I think that's the journey, because we're meant to reveal ourselves. We're meant, how do we laugh? Our creativity, our way of loving, a way of seeing beauty, our particular sense of humor, our tears. Just like, here I am, like for you can, I offer you this gift. Here I am. I hold nothing back, because there's no reason to hold anything back. And if you don't like it, or don't approve of me, or you want to judge me, that's fine. Like, do you. But I'll be me, and nothing's going to dissuade me from being myself. Because no one else can do source like I can. And as I said, I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to do that with our lives, to reveal our unrepeatable and unmistakable uniqueness to the world. And in doing that, that's how we serve the world. It's like, if we're doing ourselves, we're serving the world. And I think we're serving that out of which we emerged. that wants to know itself as us, through us, in us. And that is service, but it's not egoic. It's not an egoic virtue where I can say, yeah, I'm serving the congregation. Bruce is servant of God, you know. That's why I think the doctrine of incarnation is important. And the essence of it is it's not about an escape from the body. It's about the word becoming flesh, spirit taking form, love becoming visible, creativity being born into the world through you. And so this is the journey to become increasingly incarnate, to live as though we matter, to matter ourselves, to materialize. And the irony is, you know, most of us think about humility as, you know, what? Becoming smaller, a smaller version of ourselves, kind of extracting ourselves. We're not that important. But that's not genuine humility in my experience. It's not thinking less of yourself, but it's not thinking more of yourself. Those are both compensations. Those are both adaptations. I'm nobody, I'm king. Well, neither one is true. I'm just here to express myself. It's just finding your proper place, showing up, standing up. You're not above, you're not below, you're among. And my amongness and your amongness are a joy, how we are among each other. So, you know, a little practice for the week is just before you do anything, or, you know, just ask yourself, how am I including myself here? Before every decision, every conversation, every commitment, just did I show up here? I've included myself. And this isn't to ask, am I the center or am I getting my way? It's just, have I remembered in this experience that I too belong here? I am a legitimate presence who gets to express my needs, wants, preferences. And what are my bodily, my incarnate senses telling me? Can I include my gut instincts, my intuition? How am I feeling about this? Does it align with what I know of myself? Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist, as you know, wrote, "The world will ask you who you are. And if you don't know, the world will answer for you." I mean, you know, to give a small example, I for some reason, you know, over the course of the last year, I've been thinking, I want a particular vehicle. Like I'm attracted to it, you know, and I shouldn't want that. It's too big, and too much gas, too much. It's kind of, you know, what would people think of me if I went for it? But it's persistent, you know, it won't go away. You know, my old, I suppose, egoic instincts, you know, are telling me that's indulgent. The money could go somewhere else, you know. What will people think? But then if I include Bruce in Bruce's own life and kind of practice radical self-acceptance, I realize, like, it's a legitimate desire. Like, dude, relax. And maybe as much as anything, this is what healing is. It's not becoming more, better, not becoming somebody different, not living into some ideal that we set for ourselves. It's not becoming more spiritual or more impressive to the world. It's just refusing to omit yourself from the occasion and allowing the imago Deus, the divine image, to reveal itself through you. And so this is the practice of just saying yes. having the courage to become fully yourself. Because, you know, it's a truism, but you only get one life, right? And so it might as well be yours.